title is How Stories Create Your World. How Stories Create Your World. That is the title. So, what most of society think, and I'm sure not you guys here because you have like gone into the depths of the nature of reality, but a lot of people in society believe that the stories that we tell ourselves about society, about friends, about relationships, about this world, about our environment, are actually some form of fact. That they actually belong with the world, and they depict what it is to be alive. But as you get more and more into this subject, you begin to question if what you tell yourself is actually real. And what you begin to learn is that there is nothing that is real. Like everything that you believe to be fact, like that these are chairs, that this is a human, that this is Lisa, that this is a computer, that this is a dog, that this is a wall, that this is a room, that you're on a planet spinning on a ball around a sun in a galaxy, that these aren't facts. They're simply stories that we tell ourselves as humans in order to create something called society. But they're not actually depicting the way the world is. And maybe even some people that are into spirituality and into this subject still believe that their stories have some reality. There are two different types of stories that we tell ourselves. Conscious stories, so stories like, I'm going down to the shop, I have a husband, I have children, I have a dog, I like the colour blue, I don't like the colour pink, I like walking, I don't like bike riding, whatever it is. So these are like conscious stories. And then we've got unconscious stories that are happening. And unconscious stories are stories that are kind of in our body and in our unconscious. So they say that that makes up something like 90% of our experience. And to me, what that is that our body is responding to something, but we're not actually conscious of that response, but it's having an impact on us, our experience. So you most probably are having unconscious reactions to me, so that you're not conscious of. And the way that you can kind of become conscious of that is through feelings, because your feelings depict that. So maybe I remind you of your mother, which is often the case. I often feel like that seekers are attracted to non-duality teachers that are either like their mother or father. And so maybe I remind you of your mother, so there's some sort of unconscious desire there, like wanting attention, or there's like a cat would be. It's okay, Ee. It's okay, Beauty. Is it Andy? Is Andy coming back? Huh? You don't need to bark though. And just in that interaction between me and Khaleesi, there'll be some people that are like, oh, but there's some people that will annoy. But you might not even have any conscious thoughts that are saying this is annoying. It just might arise in your body like a slight tension or annoyance or a slight joy. And these unconscious thoughts have huge impact on our daily experience. This is kind of law of attraction. Like these are directing your body in particular ways, but you're not conscious of it. But it's not an independent body acting. It's kind of, everything moves together. It's kind of really amazing. So you have like a repulsion towards me, and then the body moves away, but you could kind of see it like a dance of energies happening. There's nothing personal in any of it. And without one thing moving, another thing doesn't move. So it's kind of like all connected, which is really amazing. It's like more intelligent than we can possibly comprehend. Yeah, and there's so many weird scientific discoveries that reflect this back. Like if you look at quantum physics, like the idea that everything is all possibilities until it's actually looked at. So until something observes it, it's all potential possibilities, which is crazy. And then there's another theory, I'm not sure if it's, I don't think it's quantum physics, but another theory that is that once two atoms interact, they continuously, so until the end of time, which is never, they affect each other's movements. I've forgotten the name of that again now. It is again like, what? Yeah, what? It's really divine, but so much is happening beyond what we could possibly tell ourselves. And you can see by the fact that us as humans can't perceive the complexities of the arising of everything, that our stories that we tell ourselves are going to be limited, so of course they cannot be fact. And you can also perceive that by if you think about science again, that if you got out even though you call me a human, if you got out a microscope and you kept going in and in further to this body, you'd never actually find the edge of my body. So you'd never actually find this body, this thing that you call Lisa. You'd find smaller and smaller things. So it'd go into skin and then to blood and then to bone and then to muscle and then to atoms maybe and quarks and then eventually nothing, which is really miraculous that you can never actually get to anything. It just appears like it. So this appears like wood. And then you can go through a whole spectrum of thing that begins as tree, then to wood, then to bed. And there's a bed sitting in front of me. And then to, I don't know what you get inside of wood. Water, maybe. And then smaller and smaller particles. Like you can never actually define one thing. We only think we can, and we tell ourselves stories about that. And so what we do is then we breed humans, so then the next generations, the younger generations, begin to grow, to form concepts, believing that what they're told about the world is actually the world. Where it's just an abstract portrayal that humans use to communicate to each other. And so what does that mean for you and suffering? What that means is that everything you tell yourself about yourself and your problems and what makes you uncomfortable can't possibly be true. So if you think that you've fucked up your life, that can't possibly be true. A lot of people suffer over regret. That can't actually be true, because if we're saying that no words actually depict what's happening, then how could that possibly be true? There's a very simplistic idea that's kind of got embedded in your system through repetition. And it's the same with the idea of you, like anything that you believe about yourself. Like, firstly, what would be this self? Like, has anyone ever found a self? Like this self called Lisa or Anne or Roger, has anyone ever found it and got it and been like, oh, that is what the self looks like? We never actually find the self. We never find the controller of this body, the one that's like, move the hand up here, move the hand up here. When we look into it, we begin to find that nothing is separate, so that everything is affecting everything else, and that you can go in infinitely, like fractals. So you can keep going infinitely inwards into anything that we call an object or we call matter, and then eventually get to something that's undetectable in this universe, so no thing. Which is wonderful, because it means that everything that you think about yourself and think about your life and believe in is totally turned onto its head, that's not reality. And this thing called a self, in which you suffer so much about, like what people think about you, what you think about other people, the way in which your life is going, what you've done, what you're going to do, isn't the way it is. It also means that everybody's inherently innocent, but because it's happening way beyond anybody's control, which is also deeply relaxing, because everyone always feels a bit guilty, like the original sin when becoming identified. So So if you look at it in the Adam and Eve story, so when Eve ate the apple of knowledge, she instantly became aware of her own nakedness and was embarrassed and ashamed. And the original sin is this sense of guilt for your sin. So it's this guilt for the way you are, which isn't true. It's not, animals don't have guilt for the way that they are. They don't feel ashamed for being naked or for farting in public. Whereas humans have this guilt that they've done something wrong, that it's under their control, which it isn't. That's the story that you're telling yourself. How can anything be under your control when we can't understand anything? When scientists haven't discovered the nature of functioning, the nature of this life, like where it began or where it ends or how it happens. So how can that simplistic thought that it's under my control, that I am the controller, be the truth? It's simply a story that you've been taught by your parents and that you've become to believe, that you are an entity that lives inside this body, separate from the whole of life, and that you've got to live a good life, a moral life, a life that has meaning. And that others are guilty and that you're guilty. But who? Who is this I and you? Who? Who let the dogs out? Who? Who? So the biggest story that we tell ourselves is that we are somebody experiencing a world that is separate from us. So we're somebody inside the body experiencing a world that is separate from us. But that's something that you're imagining. That's not actually your experience. So your experience now isn't that you're looking at me. That's a story which is being experienced. If you go beyond that, you'll see that there's something that's experiencing which isn't contained inside words, that you can't capture in an idea, in an image. It's simply experiencing, and it's not a thing, and yet it's all things. It's not separate from the sky, the clouds, the curtains, the light, the bed, the carpet. Like it's not separate. That's so special to know that, to remember that. And it's everybody's inherent birthright. This is what I loved about non-duality, is it's not about wealth or effort or what you do or don't do or how good or how bad you are. It's everybody's inherent birthright. That who you are is free of all descriptions. It's infinite possibility. That's all you've ever wanted, is infinite possibility. When you remember childhood, what we often remember in childhood is playing and just being totally in awe and at wonder of this thing called life. We might not think of it like that, but it's that sense of anything's possible. And that's what we had in childhood, which we miss as we get older, because as we get older, we begin to think things aren't possible. And and the more we think things aren't possible, the more small you become. But that's your true nature. Actually, what was happening in childhood is it's not that you had the thought anything's possible and then you felt amazing. It's that your feeling of being who you are is infinite possibilities. And then that gets translated into words. And this is what we often love about creativity, about playing with someone, about making up new things, about doing new things, is this adventurous sense of anything's possible. Anything is possible. And everything is unknown. The fact that you know that you're going to be alive tomorrow, in a way, squashes this moment right now. Like it's a story you're telling yourself. For what? For what reason? Why? It has an effect, a bizarre effect. It's okay to think that, like, you're going to be alive tomorrow because you need to plan and stuff, but it also has a deadening effect. There's something else so mysterious happening here that there's beyond all concepts. And the more that that becomes exposed and stops being hidden, because it seemingly gets hidden by this contraction, this energetic contraction and identification with a person. And the more that gets exposed, the more freedom that seems to come in the apparent life. So in your life. It doesn't mean that there aren't problems. It's just natural to come up against problems because that's the flow of things. Like, everything grows and is destroyed and grows and destroyed and grows and destroyed. So it doesn't mean problems don't occur, but the person seems to get less attached to itself and the problems. And then there's this expansion back into a freedom that's beyond anything that ever happens. This knowing that no matter what happens in the game, that you, who you truly are, is never affected. And this isn't intellectual. So it might sound intellectual, like I'm teaching you something. This is experiential. Like, who is experiencing right here, right now? Who? Who let the dogs out? Who? It was me. I let the dogs out. Okay, that's enough of the rant of Lisa. And I shall ask some questions. I think I feel like taking some calls today. I haven't done that for a while. It's always a mixed bag taking calls. Like, the good thing, because you don't know what you're getting. Like, if I did a live talk with the audience, you kind of have a sense of someone, you know what you're getting. Not that I'm being judgmental on people, but sometimes people's energies are super intense when they they've been sitting there and then suddenly they're live and you know, and if I was doing a live talk, if I could see that somebody's energy is like really intense, I might not ask them a question, like let them ask a question, because I know that it like might veer off topic, or it'd be better if I just had a one-to-one with that person rather than a one-to-one session, rather than do it in public, because it gets too out of control. But when you do it through the internet, you have no sense of that. So somebody can suddenly come on with like this big explosion of energy. But I feel like taking some questions, even saying that. So if you would like to speak, after I've said that, I've most probably put everyone off. If you'd like to speak, then make sure you have a headset and good internet connection, and just send me a message. Saying I would like to talk. And also, if I don't read your question, or if I don't speak with you, it's not personal. I get lots of different questions.